Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Introduction to Managed SPE webinar. I say good afternoon if you're in the US where I am. If you're in Australia, it's good morning, or New Zealand, it's good morning to you. If you're in the UK, I think you should probably go to bed now. You're up well past your bedtime. So we've got a lot to cover. As per the title here, this webinar is really an introduction to our flagship service, what we call Managed SPE. So unlike our other webinars, it's not purely instructional. This is unashamedly a sales presentation, but I'll try and add some value as we go by giving you some insights into SPE. Another thing that I'm going to stress as we go through is that even though I'm here to talk to you about how we work with organizations to implement SPE, there are so many organizations out there that have great results implementing this without our assistance or with only limited assistance, and we'll touch on that later. So on the agenda, there's the agenda there. I won't read through all that. I've already given you an idea. There's some housekeeping before we do that. If you have any issues with the video stream, just shut down anything on your computer that might be consuming bandwidth. So that includes email, Dropbox, anything like that at all, even Skype. What else did I want to tell you? Oh yes, a couple of other things. Now, to see the content of these slides, it's better if you send this to full screen. So if you're on a Windows machine, you can simply hit, highlight your browser, or put your focus on the browser and hit F11. So function 11 will send it to full screen. I don't know what the equivalent of F11 is for a Mac, but maybe if someone has a Mac, they can type it in the chat window. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat. You're welcome to ask questions. I'm not going to be able to type back. I've got too much technology here and only two hands. But if at all possible, I'll notice the question and I'll answer it in the presentation here. There's a delay between when I talk and when you hear what I'm saying. So just bear that in mind. I may not answer the question immediately. Oh, actually, no, the delay doesn't affect chat. So thank you for joining me. Let's roll up our sleeves and dial in. So what I want to do before we talk about Managed SPE, I want to set the scene for giving you kind of a before and after scenario. So I'm going to introduce you to two fictitious companies, Bravo Industries and Alpha Industries. I've chosen Bravo and Alpha because the first letter of each, B and A, corresponds with before and after. So Bravo is our before example and Alpha is our after example. And the Bravo Industries example, which I'm about to run through, it is indicative of the type of environment that we most typically find when we start working with an organization. So most of our clients, the average would be, I guess, in terms of size, would be somewhere between sort of 50 and 300 million in sales. In the US, in Australia, our average clients would be a lot smaller than that. But this is a fairly typical example. We would find, and even if you're not this size, what you want to be thinking about as I'm walking through this is, if you continue growing, given your current model, is it likely that this is where you're going to end up? So Bravo has a head office and 3 branch offices. And what obviously happened in Bravo's history was they took whatever they were doing in sales and customer service at a head office level, and they decided to replicate that in each region. So it's what I would call kind of a cellular approach to growth. They took what worked in the head office and they replicated it in a number of regions. So let me just advance and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is very typical of what we would see out there. We've got a head office here, and in head office we have sales and customer service. We have 2 customer service reps. We have 2 salespeople. We have a national VP who also looks after the local sales team, and we have a poor marketing person here left to themselves with no one much to talk to. And then this model's been replicated in each region. We have a general manager / sales manager in each region who probably ends up performing more like a sales lead. So this would be a quota-carrying salesperson who notionally leads the rest of the sales team at best. At worst, this person would kind of resort to being a general manager and not doing any selling at all, and probably not a lot of sales management. And a lot of people complain about that. But let's assume the best. Let's assume that they are spending a good proportion of their time selling. So we've replicated this 3 times over. And this is pretty typical. These color codes here give you an idea of the cost. So I'm assuming here that a red person is 150K a year, an orange is 100, and a green is 50. Now, in your region, if you're in New Zealand, for example, you won't be paying anywhere near that amount. But what you will find is that on a relative basis, these numbers are the same. So you might, divide each of those numbers by, or multiply each of those numbers to get by 0.7 to get a number that's appropriate for your region. So that's Bravo. What we find when we look at Bravo, what we're always interested in is the number of meaningful selling conversations. It's not salespeople who sell. It's the meaningful selling conversations performed by salespeople that sell. And I think what a lot of people do is make the mistake of counting the boots on the ground rather than counting the conversations. So when we count the conversations, what we're likely to find in the case of in the case of Bravo, is we've got 12 people, including sales managers, performing an average of two true face-to-face selling meetings a week. And that's what we find in pretty much every country that we work and in most industries. And in fact, we find that if salespeople are doing more meetings than that, the additional meetings tend to be more customer service in nature, or what people call account management, which generally reduces to some sort of, milk run. So 2 true selling meetings a week. And these people are obviously having some telephone-based conversations as well. We're assuming all 12 people are averaging 15 selling conversations a week, which is very generous. So it's 24 meetings and conversations in the field, 180 conversations on the telephone. Now, what we're likely to find when we encounter an organization like Bravo is minimal growth. And the reason that that occurs is that when you look at the salespeople, you discover that the salespeople have lots of responsibilities. They're prospecting, they're performing customer service, and in particular, the customer service ends up overwhelming them. So what happens is a new person joins a team, they grow to the point where they have enough accounts that their customer service responsibilities mean that they don't have any time to do any more prospecting, and then they stay busy with customer service. And you might say, well, Justin, we've got 2 CSRs in the region. What about them? Aren't they doing customer service? Well, no, they're not. 2 CSRs does not a customer service team make. Those customer service teams are too small to be effective. What's likely to happen is the CSRs are probably watering plants and doing odd jobs. And if there's a counter, they're almost certainly out the front attending to the counter. So that means that salespeople end up being inevitably up to their elbows in customer service at the expense of sales. Now, where customer service is concerned, we tend not to have fantastic on-time performance there either, probably because salespeople are up to their elbows in it. We tend to find poor margins. There's pressure on these regions to increase sales, and the tendency is to increase sales by giving margin away. On a similar note, we also tend to find conflict between head office and regions. And in fact, if this organization was to continue to grow, what would be likely to happen is that head office would end up employing regional managers to run interference between the head office and the general managers, meaning that we end up introducing another layer of management. We generally find when we encounter an organization like Bravo is that they've tried a whole bunch of other simpler, more obvious approaches to jumpstart growth. They've probably spent $100,000 or more, maybe $300,000 or $400,000 trying to implement a CRM, and there's probably been tens of thousands of dollars spent on sales training, none of which has had much of an impact. And that's typically where we get brought in. Now, I'm not going to describe what happens. We've got plenty of time to spend on that later. What I'm going to do is jump to the end state. So if an organization buys the machine and reads it and falls in love with it and implements the recommendations in that, what do they end up with? Or if that organization works with us and we re-engineer their sales environment, what does it end up looking like in 18 months to maybe a year to 18 months or 18 months to 2 years? So this is the alpha industries example. Can someone tell Rod that yes, the broadcast has started? I'm not sure why he's not seeing it. And And yes, there's a non-YouTube link for those people who can't watch YouTube, but I guess if they can't watch YouTube, they're not going to hear that anyway. So in the alpha example, what's happened, and I'll show you in a second, is we've got rid of branch offices, no more branch offices. And if there are regional locations required for inventory purposes, we've either reduced them down to purely logistics centers, or we've got rid of them and replaced them with a logistics company who's managing inventory. We've built a much bigger centralized customer service team. We've added project leaders or subject matter experts. We've added 3 inside salespeople, a dedicated inside sales supervisor, a couple of enterprise class field salespeople, each of whom has their own dedicated executive assistant, and a full-time research analyst to assist our marketing specialist. And the end result looks like this. One thing that's probably going to strike you straight away is there's probably not any more people here. In fact, I think there's one less. So to go through what we've got a VP of sales who does not carry any quota at all. They are responsible for the design and upkeep of this machine. We have the marketing specialist as before, but this time around, the marketing specialist has the services of a research analyst to help with list compilation. Now we have an inside sales lead. The inside sales lead is looking after all of the office-based personnel who spend all of their time sitting at desks in front of CRM or ERP with a headset on. So this is a fairly sizable team now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people who spend all of their time with headsets on. And as a consequence, we can afford to employ a really dynamic inside sales lead. Think of the type of person who would be in a floor manager position in a call center environment, a really capable person. Now, just the addition of this person is going to have a huge impact on the productivity of this team, particularly the inside sales team. Now, on the subject of inside sales, we've built an inside sales team. There wasn't one before. And you'll notice that we're paying our inside sales people in keeping with the orange rate of pay rather than the green rate of pay. So that should indicate to you that these are really capable salespeople. We have a much bigger customer service team. So because we've aggregated all these people, in fact, we've probably got one fewer than we had previously, but because we've aggregated them into a team, the total capacity has gone up significantly, and the availability of these people, because we're pooling the demand, has gone up for individual clients. So almost everything has benefited. We've got a couple of project leaders here who spend some of their time in the field assisting our BDMs or enterprise salespeople. But when they're not in the field, what we're going to do is have these project leaders sit in the middle of the customer service team and behave as or perform the role as subject matter expert. So they're on call to answer technical questions or help with requirement discovery for both the customer service team and the inside sales team. So it's a dramatically different model, no regional offices, a lot of centralization. These sales reps, by the way, don't have to be based in head office. They can live wherever you like. So if you happen to be in New Zealand, like someone I was just talking to, you would almost certainly have a salesperson on the North Island and one on the South Island, regardless of where your headquarters was. If you're in the US, you might have an East Coast person and a West Coast person. So let's look at the difference in outcomes. So the essential differences. All accounts treat customer service as a primary point of contact in this model. Nobody treats salespeople as a primary point of contact. All opportunities are owned either by inside salespeople or by by field salespeople's executive assistants. So there are no customer service tickets owned in the field, and there are no opportunities owned in the field. The ownership of all work is central. Now, sales activity, of course, is what we're interested in. Now, these numbers are pretty conservative. So my numbers for Bravo were generous. These ones are conservative. We've got 2 people in the field collectively doing 40 face-to-face meetings a week. 2 people doing 20 each. That's 4 meetings a day, 5 days a week. Where the inside team is concerned, we've got 3 people each having 20 meaningful conversations a day. Now, that would be rare for us. In the environments that we build, typically inside salespeople will have 30 telephone conversations a day, not 20. In fact, we have a couple of clients that are over 40. So 20 meaningful selling conversations a day times 5 days a week times 3 people is 300 meaningful selling conversations on the telephone. Obviously, we've seen a reduction in costs. We're going to see an increase in customer service and an increase in sales activity. And if it's not clear to you, if that's not clear to you, let's have a look at a side-by-side comparison. So where headcount is concerned, I've totaled these up in the cost categories. So the red people, 4 here, orange people, and green people. So in Bravo's case, they had 4 very expensive people, 9 medium expensive people, and 8 people who were just standard expensive, a total of 21 staff, a cost of 1.9 million. If we look at Alpha, we've got 2 fewer people, in spite of the fact we have more division of responsibilities. And this is an interesting point. People say to me, we're small, we can't afford to have division of responsibilities. Oftentimes, a carefully applied division of responsibilities, particularly in conjunction with centralization, will result in a smaller requirement for headcount. So we have a slightly different distribution of cost. We have 1 of the very expensive people, 9 of the medium expensive, and 9 of the just plain expensive. 19 people in total, cost of 1.5 million. So costs are down by about 20%. However, look at the volume of selling conversations. Remember, it's selling conversations that sell, not salespeople. So we have 204 a week in the Bravo example, and 340 meaningful selling conversations a week in the Alpha example. So even though we've reduced payroll costs by 21%, we've increased the number of meaningful selling conversations by 67%. Now notice I haven't factored in the savings that came from closing down 3 branch offices. They would be significant. In fact, we're probably talking about savings of about $1 million a year, closing down 3 branch offices. And now we aren't adding in any increased costs associated with perhaps outsourcing logistics, or maybe 2 remaining salespeople traveling more. But clearly, those costs are going to be dwarfed by the cost savings that come from shutting down those 2 regional offices. So there's the economics of the before and after model. And really, at Ballistics, when organizations work with us on the implementation of SPE, what they're really doing is working with us to transition their sales model from the Bravo example to the Alpha example. It's just as simple as that. Okay, so the rest of this webinar is dedicated to explaining Managed SPE to you. But before I get onto Managed SPE, I just want to show you where Managed SPE fits into our range of services. So if you're looking at implementing SPE in your organization, you have basically 3 options. One is to do it entirely yourself, up here in the orange. And where that's concerned, you're really not doing it entirely yourself, because obviously you can purchase a copy of the machine and read it, and I'm sure everyone here has done that already. And if you purchase a copy of the machine, you get access to the video short course, which is just absolutely packed full of valuable, detailed assistance. Plus, you get access. You can easily get access to the Ballistics Resource Center. If you don't have access to that and you've bought the book, let me know in the chat, and I'll send you a link after here. And a bunch of additional resources. If you just go to the blog and watch all the video interviews on the blog, salesprocessengineering.net, there's a lot of assistance there too. So a lot of executives are making the transition by themselves, and that's definitely possible. If you're looking at doing things a little faster, we have this middle option that we call Assisted SPE, and this involves you commissioning us to come and run, or me to come and run, a 2-day workshop with your team, where we help you build a detailed blueprint for your end state, and that can really speed things up a lot. It costs a little more money. I think that it's about $12,500 upfront if you're just committing to the solution design workshop in isolation. But it's certainly worth it if you can make the transition faster. And then the third option is what we call Managed SPE. Typically, the third option involves $12,000 upfront, or $12,500 upfront, plus $8,400 a month. And I'll explain to you in detail what Managed SPE consists of a little bit later on. But because you're attending this webinar, I'm also going to show you how you can avoid the requirement for that $12,500 upfront. So it's a good reason to keep watching, aside from just the sound of my voice. that is. So let's jump in and talk about Managed SPE, and I'll cover off on what is a solution design workshop a little bit later on. So the basic idea behind Managed SPE is very simple, and that is that we, meaning Ballistics, roll up our sleeves. We design, build, and supervise your sales function for you. So the design part happens predominantly during the initial solution design workshop. And then over a period of time after that, however long we agree it makes sense for us to work together, we build and we supervise your sales function to get it to that Bravo or alpha end state as soon as possible, and to get it to the point where it has enough positive inertia that it's not going to regress. Now, as part of building and supervising your sales function with Managed SPE, we also provide a bunch of really valuable inputs. We provide our clients with a complete technology stack. So all the sales technology that you need. We provide all the promotional inputs. So everything from websites to EDMs to landing pages to even business cards and brochures and so on. We do all the sales-related recruitment and training, and we provide ongoing strategic input. So that's, I guess, Managed SPE in a nutshell. It might be easier, though, to represent it graphically. So the way that SPE works is there's your organization at the top there, and we have a bunch of people who you'll meet in a second called SPE consultants. So these are people who are based in both Australia and the US who work with organizations who are implementing SPE in a number of countries, in New Zealand, Australia, the UK, the US, and Canada. I think that covers all the territories. Now, their work is informed by really two things, or powered by two things. There's the strategy document that comes out of the initial solution design workshop, which I run. And that really gives our SPE consultant a detailed blueprint for the functionality that they're going to build in your organization up here. But then our consultant also has access to three teams of people that we have. We have a big technology team, a decent-sized creative team, and also we have a recruiting team. So our SPE consultant provides a whole bunch of services themselves, working directly with your team, plus they project manage the provision of a whole bunch of additional services from these resource pools here. And I'm going to actually open the Komodo, as they say, and show you the content of these three circles here and talk to you about the role played by the consultant. But before I get to that, I'll give you the cost. I want you to know the cost up front. It doesn't make sense to hold it back to the end. So here's the price and here's the terms. So the solution design workshop can be purchased in isolation, or it can be purchased as part of MSPE. If you purchase it in isolation, it costs $12,500 plus travel and living, and it involves me on premises with your senior team building a really detailed blueprint. And then we have Managed SPE, and Managed SPE costs $8,400 a month plus travel and living expenses. The only way to get to Managed SPE is via a solution design workshop. And today we have an offer that allows you to take advantage of the upfront solution design workshop without making an enduring commitment to Managed SPE. Whoops, and we'll get to that in just a second. Before I do, on the subject of terms, our terms are really generous. We have no minimum term. So if somebody starts working with us, we're not asking for a minimum term commitment. We have a 2-month notice to terminate, bilateral. If you don't feel that we're progressing fast enough, you can give us 2 months notice. And similarly, if we feel that we can't drive progress in your organization fast enough, we can also give you a 2-month notice to terminate. One thing that's really important to us in everything we do is velocity. If we're talking about sales, we want to see a high velocity sales process. If we're talking about customer service, we want to see a high velocity of cases. And if we're talking about making a transition to a new model, we want to see change happen as quickly as is healthy for your organization. So that's the cost and the terms. And I have an offer here before we're going to go into a detailed review of the various components of Managed SPE. So traditionally, the way that we've worked is we've sold the solution design workshop and Managed SPE separately. You know, people have paid $12,500 for a solution design workshop, and then they've decided whether or not they want to work with us on MSP, on the MSPE service. Today, however, the offer is if you request an overview or a proposal for our solution design workshop, we will allow you to roll the solution design workshop into Managed SPE, but give you the ability to opt out of MSPE before the end of month 1. So what that essentially means is that you can either buy a solution design workshop for just $8,400 instead of $12,500, or if you ultimately go ahead with Managed SPE, you avoid the requirement for the upfront $12,500. So if you request an overview of MSPE in this webinar, and I'm going to put a button up right now that you can click. It's probably gone up already. There you go. So all you have to do is click the Request Now button, and in addition to that, I will send you a copy of the book. You can see the book behind me there on the bookshelf at Borders. So you'll save yourself $4,100. So on with the show. So what I want to do now is to tease apart the different elements which we've already discussed of Managed SPE and talk about them in a little more detail. So the first element is the solution design workshop. It's a 2-day workshop. It's run by myself and possibly a couple of team members from Ballistics, depending on the options that you choose in the solution when you purchase the solution design workshop. And it's a lot of work in 2 days. We roll up our sleeves and we really do 2 things. The first thing that we do is build a detailed blueprint for what we believe your sales function should look like at some point in the not too distant future. And we start with a resourcing model. So a diagram of the base, you can see it in the background there, a diagram of the basic sales model and an indication of the direction of your primary workflows. And then we map those workflows. We make resourcing decisions. We figure out the technology implications. We just do 2 days absolutely chock full of planning. It's an exhausting 2 days, let me tell you. And you get a detailed outcomes document, which is either going to be used by yourself to implement this stuff in your organization, or if you're working with us with MSPE, then that outcomes document will go to you and also to the consultant who's going to be working with you, and they will use it as basically their implementation manual. So that's the solution design workshop. So the next element of Managed SPE is our consultants. Now, we're really proud of our consultants. All of them are full-time employees. Because MSPE is quite a radical departure from the way that sales environments are normally built and managed, we're not in a position where we can go and recruit general consultants and have them work for us on a contract basis. It's just impossible, which is good news, I guess, for our clients, because it means all of our consultants are full-time employees who do nothing other than implement SPE. It's bad news in a sense, because sometimes we run out of capacity and our clients are annoyed with us because they have to sit in a queue waiting for us to add more capacity. But, c'est la vie. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. So all the full-time employees all have a lot of experience with SPE. We choose people who have a sales or typically sales management background, and most of our team members have backgrounds in project management as well. And as well as being capable people in their own rights, another huge benefit is that our consultants are plugged into a network of other consultants. And it's interesting, let me get out of Ryan's way, it's interesting for me to see to the extent at which our consultants tap into each other's experiences. We have via Podios, a project management application we use internally, these chat channels, and it's amazing to see the massive volume of chat that goes on all day long with our consultants sharing their best practices, between Australia and the UK and the US. So here's our consulting team. Alina at the top is our engagement lead. The little badges there indicate the regions they work in. Alina works with clients in all of our territories. And you can see our other consultants are based in Australia, like Rebecca here and Katrina, Chazelle here is US based. You'll see the US consultants have an American flag and a Canadian flag and a UK flag because they're the 3 territories that they work in. Aussie consultants are a little luckier because they just have to fly between Australia and New Zealand. So that's our team of consultants. So anyone who works with us on Managed SPE will work with one of these people, or will have one of these people working hands-on in their business, assisting with, you know, recruiting and training and all of the good things that they do. Okay, so actually back on the subject of our consultants, let me go back for a minute. Let me explain to you what they do. Our consultants, I mentioned before, they project manage these other services that I'm about to show you. But it's important to note that they bring a lot to the table themselves. I mean, what tends to happen is our consultants will burrow in deep and get stuff done. They're not going to stand on the periphery and shout guidance to management like coaches do. You know, we bridle at the suggestion that we're coaches. I mean, it's true that we coach to some extent, but when we work with an organization, we actually roll up our sleeves and get stuff done. So our consultants are heavily involved in recruiting. They'll work with individual contributors on training. Actually, before that, they'll work with your IT department and with ours to configure technology correctly. Yours where ERP is concerned, ours for CRM. They'll actually be on site working hands-on with individual contributors or collaborating with them by remote control using video conferencing. And then once you have a function up and running, they will tend to work with you on recruiting and training and counseling supervisors to, you know, do all the critical things that are required to keep these environments rocking and rolling, running with meetings, you know, monitoring the critical numbers, which we'll get to in a minute, and so on. So that's our consulting team. So the next element of the service proposition is our technology stack. And this has really been growing over the years, and we're really proud of it. We provide our clients with a complete end-to-end technology stack. They really don't need any other technology other than what we provide them. And our approach where technology is concerned, it was probably radical when we first started doing it, but we're so glad we went down this path, is to embrace open source technology. Interestingly, most software today, whether you recognize it or not, is open source. If you have an Android device, then that's an open source application. If you're running, even a Mac or was originally based on Linux, I guess even the current OS is a Linux derivative. Linux is an open source, or Unix. Well, Linux actually is an open source application. And the technology that runs the servers that power all the websites that you use is open source. So Apache is open source. But even WordPress, which 22% of websites are hosted in today, by far the biggest web hosting platform, is open source. Now, there are also, and this isn't well recognized, but there are also really robust open source enterprise software applications. One of them is vTiger, which we embrace for CRM. Another is Mautic, which we embrace for marketing automation. So what we've done over the years is assembled a suite of, with the exception of reporting, we've assembled a suite of open source applications, and we have a team of developers who customize them to suit the requirements of our clients. Now, we're very careful to stay up to date with the latest releases of these open source applications. So if you're using our technology, you're staying current, but we are also augmenting the standard open source releases of these applications with additional plugins that suit the special requirements of our clients. And I'll get to that in a minute. So let me show you each briefly. So we'll start with Mautic. If you've heard of marketing automation already, which I guess most people have, you'll know that the traditional marketing automation applications are things like, you know, Marketo and HubSpot and Pardot and Eloqua and so on. And these applications cost a lot of money. I think most organizations that we would bump into that have been sold one by someone else would be spending thousands, sometimes many, many thousands of dollars per month on marketing automation. Mautic's an open source equivalent, and like most open source applications, they're free. You pay only for hosting, and we host, as I've already pointed out, versions of these applications at no additional charge for our clients. Now, Mautic's a very exciting application. One of the things that it will do is it will track the web activity of everyone on your database. So, and it'll track their web activity even before you identify them. So whenever somebody visits one of your web properties, including your website, but things like landing pages too, for the very first time, it will track their IP address, and it'll also, if it's a traditional browser, drop a cookie on their machine, and it will track all of their activity on your site, even if it doesn't know who they are, even if it identifies them with just an IP address or a cookie ID. And at the point at which they click on a link in an email or respond to fill in a form, then at that point they get identified, which means you can see all of their activity dating back even to before their identification. So that's the first thing that Mautic does. It gives you an insight into all of the web activity, and it allows you to actually trigger campaigns based upon web activity. And it also enables you to, at certain points, automatically push opportunities into CRM, and we'll come to that in a minute. Now, in addition to tracking web activity, Mautic allows you to build web forms. So any forms that are hosted on your website or in landing pages can and should be built within Mautic. And there's a simple drag and drop form builder, which means someone in your marketing department can build forms without having to require technical involvement. Also in Mautic, you can and should build all of your landing pages. So you can see here, we're building a landing page for ballistics, giving away a sample of the machine. It's sitting there in Mautic. So the landing pages are hosted in Mautic, plus the forms that live on the landing pages are also hosted in Mautic, and emails too. So here's an email that's sitting inside Mautic. Also assets if people download white papers, or even click through to view videos on YouTube or whatever the case is. Any marketing assets also live in Mautic or are encapsulated by a wrapper that's within Mautic, so that everything can be tracked in the one place. And once you have all this stuff in Mautic, you have the ability to build campaigns. And this is where marketing automation gets really exciting. You can build these automated campaigns. So you're looking at a campaign here at Ballistics that is triggered when somebody requests a copy of our sample of the first 4 chapters of the machine via that landing page you saw in the background a minute ago. And you can see that there's an automated sequence here. You probably can't see the steps in detail, but there are 2 sequences of emails. One has 2 emails in it. The other one has about 8, I think, emails in it. All of them encourage prospects to progress to the next step in the sales cycle. And this campaign also does logistical things in the background, like unsubscribe people from other campaigns so they don't end up receiving multiple autoresponder sequences simultaneously, and so on. So there's a massive amount of complexity here. You can program all sorts of logic in. You can have events triggered by people doing things like clicking on an email, or not doing things like failing to click on an email. So for example, you could use Mautic to automate the entire sequence of emails around a webinar like this one that you're participating in right now. So marketing automation isn't just used for inbound marketing, in other words, for generating opportunities. It's also used for running campaigns, particularly campaigns that it makes sense to automate for existing customers or prospects in your CRM. So we have, so Mautic and vTiger are tightly integrated natively. vTiger's the CRM, by the way. Natively, Mautic pushes leads into the lead module of CRM. But we have also written a plugin that replicates all of the contacts in your CRM back into Mautic so that you can see their web activity, and so that you can use Mautic to do mass broadcasts of emails. By the way, all mass broadcasting of emails is covered in under the Managed SPE relationship. So now we're looking at CRM. vTiger is a very exciting CRM. It has all of the functionality that a typical organization would use in an expensive commercial solution like Salesforce or Microsoft CRM or NetSuite. But as is typically the case with CRM, it's been built by the open source community, which means you can download it and you can self-host and pay nothing for it, or you can have someone else host it for you. We host vTiger for our clients, plus in addition to hosting it, we add a whole bunch of special features over and above what you would get natively. And a lot of these special features are just not available in other CRMs like Salesforce or NetSuite or Microsoft. Now, in some cases, we've built plugins to augment the capability of some of those other CRMs. But if you were to compare what our instance of vTiger does compared to what other commercial CRMs does natively, vTiger is just perfectly optimized for managing an environment under SPE. An example of that is what we call mass generating sales opportunities. It never ceases to amaze me that the makers of CRM expect salespeople to generate their own sales opportunities. Now, the interesting thing is that if you give salespeople the freedom to create their own sales opportunities, what's going to happen is that they will choose not to create sales opportunities in order to inflate their conversion rates. In our world, we have a rule, and the rule is that every single activity performed by a salesperson must be accompanied by an activity created in CRM, and every activity created in CRM must be associated with a sales opportunity. That means that we have visibility of 100% of salespeople's activities, and all of salespeople's activities are nested underneath sales opportunities. Now, unless you adopt that approach to the architecture of your sales technology, it is impossible to measure sales properly and to calculate a return on sales effort. So in spite of the fact that everyone in the CRM world talks about accountability and reporting and so on, none of the CRMs, with the exception of Microsoft CRM actually, allows the mass generation of sales opportunities by marketing departments, which means it's left up to salespeople to decide if and when to create sales opportunities. So we don't leave it up to salespeople. So one of the cool add-ons, cool plugins we built for vTiger is the ability to mass generate sales opportunities. So our clients all over the world, every single morning would have someone called a campaign coordinator who arrives at work early and pushes 10 or 15 sales opportunities every single day to every single salesperson. They would push a number of opportunities to each salesperson equal to the number of opportunities that were closed by each salesperson in the preceding day. Now, we've built other special features as well. We've built a much more powerful reporting module for vTiger. We've built call flow automation to speed up the call process in inside sales environment, and tons more. We would release about 3 or 4 major new features a month to vTiger, plus a whole bunch of fixes and improvements and smaller features. On the subject of features, here's another cool one, geomapping. This is really valuable if you have sales coordinators or BDCs planning a route for field-based representatives, or even a field activity coordinator planning activity for field specialists. This enables you to enter the location of a person's first meeting. Perhaps they have to go to North Sydney. Hello to everyone in Sydney. Perhaps they have to go to North Sydney for the first meeting in a day. The smart thing to do is to keep them in North Sydney for the rest of the day, because going back and forth over the river there's pretty difficult. And of course, the same thing applies to different parts of Chicago, or certainly Los Angeles. So what you would do is you would enter the starting address, and then you would generate a map of all the opportunities within reasonable driving distance, and then you would plan the rest of that person's day based upon opportunities close by. So there's lots of other bells and whistles. There's just a couple of examples. So far in the technology stack, we have Mautic, which is marketing automation. We have vTiger, which is CRM. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management. And the last piece is Insightful. Insightful is the only piece that we've built ourselves. Insightful is a dashboard. It's widget-based. So each of these reports sits on a widget. You can grab these widgets and drag them around. And you can send this into full screen mode. You can change the theme, so it's a light theme or a dark theme. And if you go to any of our clients' premises anywhere in the world, you will see a big Insightful board, definitely up there in their customer service area. In customer service, and this is what we're looking at here, a customer service view, we're tracking all of the cases or tickets that are open at this particular point in time. They're color-coded on the left-hand side here, so that the customer service team can see all of the open cases and they can watch them aging. Black means late, red means close to due, and so on. So it makes all the work visible. We do the same thing with other environments too. On the right-hand side, we've got a widget we call the on-time case completion widget. This is tracking the percentage of cases that are completed on time or before time for each period. So this is looking at a 4-week period, and you can see here that over the last 4 weeks, the on-time case completion percentage is 81, 63, 88, and 72% respectively. This is a number that our customer service teams obsess over. Interestingly, when we start working with organizations, if they think they're doing well in customer service, the on-time case completion number is somewhere around 40 to 50% typically. Over a couple of months, we will generally drive it up to 90+%. And then, of course, we will strive to maintain it at 90+% from that point onwards. And in most cases, we'll start to get a little more aggressive when it comes to default case lead times. We'll start to tighten up the lead times while still maintaining it at 90%. If you've read the book, you'll know that we obsess over velocity in customer service. And the reason for that is if you have exceptional velocity in customer service, you get additional sales for nothing. You get uplift before you even start to turn your attention in sales. If your customers discover that they can get quotes from you faster than from competitors and get orders fulfilled faster from you than from competitors, you will find that they reward you with more business before you even start selling. So we obsess over customer service. Insightful, here's a view of a new sales widget. This is coming out in the next couple of weeks, so you've seen it here first. We're working on building a set of sales widgets for Insightful that inspire the same level of excitement that our customer service ones do. Insightful's a relatively new tool for us, and this is what we have in the works for sales. So what we're looking at here is a view of activity. The day is mapped along the bottom here, and the number of calls performed by the team in aggregate are mapped by these two areas here. So attempts are in gray, and meaningful selling interactions, they're the ones that we want, are in green. And the team is endeavoring to get to the top of this range by the end of the day. By the looks of this, they're running a little behind schedule. Up on the top left here, we have a view of what salespeople are achieving as a result of these calls. And what we're doing here is we're tracking the completion of sales stages. Now, obviously, winning an opportunity involves completing a stage, but in most cases, there are 4 or 5 other stages leading up to that final win, and we're tracking the completion of those stages. If you look closely, you'll see there's a little blue line here. This little blue line, as the day progresses, marches towards the top of the little clock here. And the objective of the team is to ensure that the red line keeps up with the blue line. If they do that, then they meet their sales objective for the day. So we're very excited to get this onto our clients' walls because we've seen the impact that our customer service dashboards have. And I think that these sales reports will do the same thing for sales environments. So this will be relevant for inside sales teams and also teams of business development coordinators. So that's the end of the technology stack. We do other technology work as well. We have a fairly big team, and we do special projects for our clients, all at no additional cost. So we build things like, we work on things like document automation for generating proposals, configurators, and so on. And we'll also build special reporting solutions for clients when it makes sense to do that. Automated emails and all sorts of interesting things. All of that technology is included in the standard $8,400 a month fee for Managed SPE. In fact, everything is included in the fee. The only exclusion are out-of-pocket expenses like flights and hotels. So that brings me to the second set of services, which are creative. So we have a pretty big creative team as well as a pretty big technology team. In fact, you may not know, but Ballistic started as a direct marketing agency about 20 years ago. I actually started Ballistics with the basic SPE ideas that are outlined in the book, The Machine. But back then, I thought the smarter way to monetize those ideas, rather than having a consulting firm, I didn't really know anything about consulting at the time, was to build a direct response agency. And we discovered over the years that it really wasn't a good way of monetizing those ideas. But over the years, we built a fairly decent size and a very, very capable direct marketing team. And it's still there today, and today it provides huge value to our clients. So our creative team generates for our clients all of their brochures, sales letters, and traditional collateral, plus all of their online stuff, websites, landing pages, EDMs, and general digital marketing. We also assist with multimedia and video editing and really all elements of promotion. And the team does some really nice work. You'll see as you look at this that there really is a direct response flavor. Because we're direct marketing, we come from a direct marketing heritage. But the other reason is that our whole team is sales focused. And this is a big benefit, I think, in working with Ballistics, is not only do you have consultants who understand the sales model that they're trying to build, and you would hope that they do. But also behind our consultants, you have a technology team that understand the same model, and a creative team that understands the same model, and a recruiting team that understand the same model. So everyone is pulling in the same direction. Tends not to be the case if you're using various other outsourced third parties, because what ends up happening is they each have their own worldview and their own view of how sales should be structured and managed, and you end up with them pulling in different directions. Okay, so some more examples here. Here's an example of a traditional direct response advertisement. I've put that in there for old time's sakes, just to prove, in case you were wondering, that we really do have direct marketing DNA, if you like. These kind of campaigns are very, very difficult to do, even though they're ugly. But there's magic in their ugliness. It's extremely difficult to create direct response ads that make the phone ring. It's easy to generate traditional display advertising and justify your expenditure by saying, well, we're building brand equity. But when you work with organizations that depend on you to make the telephone ring, or to have people clip and mail coupons, or nowadays to fill in landing pages and hit submit, it forces you to be really good at writing headlines and writing body copy and so on. So this is our heritage. We convert that into digital. A client of ours ran for a long period of time a webinar teaching auto dealers how to take photographs. Obviously, this company, Evox, sold auto photography, but as a little value add, they taught dealers how to take their own photographs. And they had a professional photographer running a webinar, just doing a spectacular job of very, very practical, teaching photographers how to do a better job of photographing cars. Car dealers loved it, because obviously, increasingly, they generate more and more money online, and photographs are so important to people who are shopping for cars online. There's another example of a landing page. This one contains a video. We were able to shoot this video and do post-production and so on within 2 days to get this landing page up with it, which is another benefit of working with Ballistics. If you went to a video production company and said, we want a video, your quote would start at $10,000 and the lead time would start at 2 or 3 weeks. In our case, we realized that this video just had to be fit for purpose. It didn't have to be, a work of art. So we were able to find an agency online that had talent standing by to record direct-to-camera presentations. We created a mock-up of the cover of the book. We wrapped an existing book in the mock-up. We FedExed it to Utah, where this agency is based. While they were shooting the video, our designers made the background for the video. The video came back the next morning via a Dropbox link as a MP4 file. We downloaded the MP4 file. It was shot in front of a green screen. We dropped the green screen back out, and within less than 48 hours, we had a video sitting on this landing page here. It's very difficult to do that sort of thing if you're working with a whole bunch of third-party providers. We build websites. There's a fairly pedestrian, albeit effective website. And if you're in the market for something a little fancy, and a lot of our enterprise clients, fancy is very important to them because they're selling to buyers who appreciate fancy. So this is a client of ours called Bernard BPO, who provide call center services to enterprise. And, just to show that our designers have some reasonable design chops, they built this really fascinating little website that has all this moving video with real dogs and everything. So we can do fancy too. So we've covered off the first 3 or 4 service areas. We've talked about the solution design workshops, which I run. We've talked about our managed SPE consultants who work hands-on with our clients. We've talked about our end-to-end technology stack. We've talked about creative. The last piece is recruiting. So you may be surprised to know that we recruit all of our clients' sales-related personnel. So that includes salespeople, of course, inside and outside, customer service representatives, campaign coordinators, business development coordinators, channel managers, channel coordinators, researchers, supervisors. All the sales personnel, we recruit them all for our clients. And of course, this saves our clients a fortune. And as is the case with everything else, there's no incremental cost other than out-of-pocket expenses, maybe running an ad on Monster. Now, an interesting question that sometimes gets asked is, are you guys recruiting specialists? And generally speaking, we're not. If you wanted us to recruit a secretary for you or a new CEO, we wouldn't be the best person to do that. But when it comes to recruiting these particular roles, we recruit more of these roles than most mid-sized recruiting agencies would. Every single day on 4 continents, we're running ads and doing shortlisting interviews for salespeople, CSRs, inside salespeople, and so on. So we have a team of people who do the pre-screening and pass pre-screened candidates to our consultants. We build these high-velocity recruiting processes, which is really important if you want to get good people. A big challenge that we see in organizations that we work with is it takes them too long to recruit people, and as a consequence, they miss out on the good candidates. So we recruit quickly, like we do everything else. We focus on selling your organization to candidates rather than just filtering. Obviously, you don't get the best candidates from filtering. You get the best candidates from, selling. And another major advantage we have where recruiting is concerned is our consultants can sell the role to new candidates. And this is a really tough problem. If you are planning on transitioning to SPE and you're trying to do your own recruiting, you're trying to recruit candidates to work in an environment that doesn't yet exist. So when they ask questions about the specifics of what they're going to do as a business development coordinator or an inside salesperson, it doesn't take them long to figure out that the manager who is recruiting them doesn't really understand those specifics, and that can be a little bit off-putting. Our consultants, however, because they build the same basic functionality over and over again, can speak with confidence about the environment that your candidates will be working in on their first day on the job, even if that environment doesn't exist when they are going through the process of recruiting, and that is a huge plus. In the occasions where we have recruited side by side with traditional recruiters, our experience has been that we out-recruit them simply because we specialize in recruiting these specific sales-related roles, and we do a lot of it over and over and over again. So that's the service proposition as a whole. All of that is just a flat monthly fee. It costs about the same as a capable salesperson or a middle manager would cost. So what we have to do when we work with organizations is we have to make sure that all of those services combined generate more value than a capable salesperson or a middle manager. And it's really not hard to see that it's not that hard to do. So in most cases, a managed SPE engagement for a reasonable size organization is cash flow neutral for a couple of reasons. Number one, most of our clients build lower cost sales functions. But the other reason is when you take into account that you no longer have to pay for third-party technology. You no longer have to pay for third-party design and web development services, and you no longer have to pay for third-party recruiting services. You add up all of those costs that you've eliminated, and in most cases, our clients are ahead of the 8 ball before we even lift a finger to improve the performance of sales. And you better believe that we do lift quite a number of fingers to significantly improve the performance of sales. But interestingly, sales isn't where we start. Customer service is always where we start. So when we start working with an organization, the first thing that we do is knuckle down and build a really robust customer service team. And typically, our clients would see a fairly dramatic improvement in customer service quality measured by on-time case completion in the first month or so. So there are quite a few cases where our clients have gone from 40 or 50% on-time case completion to 90+% on-time case completion within a couple of months. And now that has a huge impact on customer service, customer satisfaction, and in most cases it's going to have some measurable impact on sales volumes. The next cab off the rank is sales activity, and we work hard to increase the volume of sales activity as quickly as we possibly can. So from day one, we start measuring it, and within 3 to 6 months, we would reasonably expect to have doubled your current volume of sales activity. And that's just the beginning. So after we've done that, from that point onwards, we're working with you to bed in the changes that we've made, to get the procedures really robust, to make sure that both your customer service and your inside sales supervisors are running those daily WIP meetings, to make sure that everything's being measured and the numbers that matter are being monitored. And from that point onwards, once the systems are robust, it's a matter of ongoing improvement, scaling up. Adding inside sales people. Typically, most of our clients drive their growth nowadays from their inside sales teams, And as we increase the volume of meaningful selling interactions on the inside, then adding field specialists or BDMs on an as-needed basis, and of course adding people to customer service as required. It's an exciting journey, and we're there for as long as it makes sense. So $8,400 a month covers everything, no minimum term. We're there for as long as it makes sense, and that's Managed SPE. If you'd like us to send you an overview of what we call a solution design workshop, which includes the offer for you to skip the $12,500 up front, roll the solution design workshop into an engagement, pay just $8,400 in month one, and have the option to opt out before the end of month one, meaning you get a solution design workshop for $8,400 instead of $12,500, and you have the option to, if you wish, embark on Managed SPE without having to pay for the solution design workshop separately. If you're interested in that, and of course a free copy of the machine, then click on the form, click on the button there, fill in the form, and we will get a copy of the book and a solution design workshop overview to you. Now, I'm going to stay on the line and answer questions. I noticed somebody said the link wasn't working. I'm just going to check and paste an updated link if necessary in the chat window here. So the webinar is officially over. Thank you so much for attending. I hope there's been value in this for you. And I'm going to stay on the line here to answer questions as long as they keep coming. So go ahead and ask some questions in the chat window here if you have any, and I will check that form for you now. Thanks for coming. Okay, let me see request now. Yes, there's a form, it loads fine. I don't know what that problem was, so I'll go back to chat and paste. Here's the link to the form here. I just tested it, works fine. If it's not working, just let me know in chat. If there are any questions, I'm standing by here to answer them. A couple of people asking about not having access to YouTube. The replay link that you get will have a non-YouTube link. I'm hosting a copy of this video on our Amazon S3 box. Still offline? Well, it's not for me, Spencer. I'm not sure what the issue is. It may be that your firewall is blocking it for some reason. Hi, Justin. I mentioned you in the book, the SPE process is most suited to manufacturers. That's not actually true. The SPE process is not most suited to manufacturers. I think that there are different implementations of SPE. So chapter 1 in the book talks about engineer-to-order environments, which would include, web developers, for example, and custom software developers. I mean, a lot of our clients are manufacturers, but I don't think that's because SPE is most suited to manufacturers. I think it's because manufacturing firm contains tons of engineers get turned on by this. So you say not distributed stock products. Again, that's not true. We would probably have more clients who are distributors who stock products than we have manufacturing clients. I talk about manufacturers in the book simply because I think most people understand manufacturing better than they understand other types of businesses. But a significant percentage of our clients would be buy-sell type businesses. And a lot would be a mix. We've done a lot of work over the years in hydraulics, in the hydraulics environment. Don't ask me why. And our clients in that environment, they would have a lot of buy-sell hydraulic componentry, plus they might have, a division that manufactures manifolds, which is an engineer-to-order service. So it's really not true to say that SPE is appropriate only for manufacturers. We have law firms and other professional services firms that have implemented SPE very successfully. The costs are the same in US dollars or AUD, although I think in AUD there's the GST. I'm not sure. I think the GST is on top of that, but I'm not 100% sure. Just fill in the form and we'll send you an overview. I think it's specified in there. Do we offer access to V-Tiger ballistics to smaller companies who are not yet large enough to run with SPE? Generally, no, Gavin, because of the fact that most small companies don't have the technical chops to really make use of it. So we did go down that route briefly and backed away from it because we discovered that we couldn't provide ad hoc support to small companies, and small companies didn't have an IT department big enough to really transition properly into anyway. So what we would say to small companies is, look, work with us for a couple of months, for 2 or 3 months. treat an MSPE engagement as a way of getting CRM up and running, and then we'll continue to host it for you thereafter, and we'll charge you a flat monthly hosting fee rather than a per user per month fee like you'd have to pay for anyone else. So your total cost is going to be significantly less than you would spend with Salesforce or someone else. And working with our team for 2 or 3 months, you're going to get much, much better outcomes. Costs in US, I've answered that already. Do we work in South America? Well, we're open to suggestions, but currently no. What we found in South America is our costs in US dollars are generally, out of reach of South America. So to work in South America, we probably have to build our own team, a lower cost team of, so we'd be open to suggestion. The other problem with South America is, even though it seems so close, it takes so long to get to different locations in South America. So Canada, yes. South America, not yet. Open to suggestion, but not yet. If you tell me you work for Coca-Cola, then maybe we'll rethink that. But I wouldn't say yes definitely without chatting to you about it, Hernan. Okay, I think that brings us to an end here. That link's working for me. Let me test one more time just to be sure. Yes, it's working for me. Comes up instantly. If you're not seeing it, it's either it must be being blocked in your region, or more likely by the firewall in your organization. So you'll have to talk to your IT department about that. So thank you so much for attending, and all the best with the implementation of SPE in your businesses. See you at our next webinar.